November 8th, 1900, Volume 4. Obedience gives back to the soul her original state. Continuing with his usual delays in coming, I was feeling all the weight of his privation, when all of a sudden he came, and I don't know why. He posed me this interrogative: would you be able to tell me why obedience is so glorified and receives such honor as to imprint the divine image in the soul? All confused, I did not know what to answer, but through an intellectual light which he sent to me, blessed Jesus answered himself. But since it was through light, not words, I don't have the terms to express it. However, obedience wants me to try if I can manage to write it. I believe I will say big nonsense, and will write things which do not go together. But I place all my faith in obedience, especially since these are things that regard her directly, and I begin to try. It seemed he was saying to me, obedience is so glorified because she has the virtue of unveiling the human passions from their very roots. She destroys in the soul everything which is earthly and material, and to her great honor, she gives back to the soul her original state. That is, the way she was created by God in her original justice, before being cast out of the terrestrial Eden. And in this sublime state, the soul feels strongly drawn to everything that is good. She feels all that is good, holy, and perfect, as inborn within herself, and greatest horror at even the shadow of evil. With this happy nature, received from the most experienced hand of obedience, the soul no longer finds difficulty in executing the commands received. More so, since the one who commands must always command what is good. And here's how obedience knows how to imprint well the divine image. Not only this, but she changes the human nature into divine, because just as God is good, holy, and most perfect, and tends to all that is good and greatly hates evil, so does obedience have the virtue of divinizing the human nature, and of making it acquire the divine qualities. And the more the soul lets herself be handled by this most experienced hand, the more of the divine she acquires, destroying her own being. This is why she is so glorified and honored, so much so that I myself submitted to her and was honored and glorified by this. And through her, I gave back honor and glory to all my children, which they had lost because of disobedience. This is more or less what I have been able to manifest. The rest I feel within my mind, but I lack the words, because the height of the concept of this virtue is such that my poor human language is unable to adapt itself with words. November 8th, 1903, Volume 6. Jesus tells how the love of neighbor must be. As I was in my usual state, I was praying for certain needs of others, and blessed Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "For what purpose are you praying for these people?" And I, "Lord, and you, for what purpose did you love us?" And he, "I love you because you are my own thing, and when an object is one's own, one feels compelled to love it. It is like a necessity." And I, "Lord, I am praying for these people because they are your own thing. Otherwise I would not have interested myself." And he, placing his hand on my forehead, almost pressing it, added, "Ah, it is because they are my own thing. This is how the love of neighbor is all right." November 8th, 1905, Volume 6. The first step to enter the will of God is resignation. The soul who is resigned to the divine will comes to make of her God her favorite food. After I struggled very much, he came for just a little and told me, "My daughter, it happens to the soul who resigns herself to my will as to someone who, drawing near a beautiful food in order to see it, feels the desire to eat it. And as his desire is excited, he begins to enjoy that food and to transmute it into his flesh and into his blood. Had he not seen that beautiful food, the desire could not have come. He could not have experienced its taste and would have continued to remain on an empty stomach. Now such is resignation for the soul. As she resigns herself, in her very resigning, she sees a divine light, and this light dispels whatever prevents her from seeing God. And as she sees God, she desires to enjoy Him. And while she enjoys Him, she feels as if she were eating Him in such a way as to feel God Himself all transmuted into herself. Therefore, it follows that the first step is to resign oneself. The second is to desire to do the will of God in everything. The third is to make of it one's favorite food daily. The fourth is to consume the will of God within one's own. But if one does not take the first step, he will remain empty of God. November 8th, 1921, Volume 13. To live in the divine will means to multiply the life of Jesus with all the good it possesses. Jesus says to Luisa, "Blessed are you, and all generations will call you blessed." As I was in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen while taking a light from my interior and carrying it away. I shouted, "Jesus, what are you doing? Do you want to leave me in the dark?" And he, with all sweetness, told me, "My daughter, do not fear. I am taking your little light with me, and I leave you mine. This little light of yours is nothing other than your will, which, having placed itself in front of mine, has received the reflection of my will. That's why it became a light. I am taking it in order to let it go around. I will take it to heaven as the most rare and beautiful thing, which is the human will that has received the reflection of the will of its Creator. I will let it wander among the divine persons, so that they may receive the homages and adorations of their own reflections, the only ones worthy of them. Then I will show it to all the saints, so that they too may receive the glory of the reflections of the divine will in the human will. And then I will make it flow through the whole earth, so that all may take part in such a great good." Immediately I added, "My love, forgive me. I thought you wanted to leave me in the dark. This is why I said, 'What are you doing?' But when it is about my will, feel free to take it and do whatever you want." Now, while Jesus was carrying this little light in his hands, I cannot say what happened. I lacked the words to express myself. I just remember that he placed the little light in front of his person, and the little light received all his reflections in such a way as to form another Jesus. And every time my will repeated its acts, so many Jesuses were multiplied. Then my Jesus told me, "Do you see what it means to live in my will? It is to multiply my life as many times as one wants, and to repeat all the good which my life contains." Afterwards I was saying to my Jesus, "My life, I enter into your will to be able to extend myself in everyone and to everything, from the first to the last thought, from the first to the last word, From the first to the last action and step that were done, are done, and will be done. I want to seal everything with your will, so that you may receive from everything the glory of your sanctity, of your love, of your power, and so that all that is human may remain covered, hidden, marked by your will. May nothing human remain in which you do not receive divine glory. Now, while I was doing this and other things, my sweet Jesus came, all festive, accompanied by innumerable blessed, and said, "The whole of creation says to me, 'My glory, my glory.' And all the saints answered, 'Here, O Lord, we give you divine glory for everything.' I could hear an echo from all sides saying, 'For everything we give you love and glory.' And Jesus added, 'Blessed are you, and all generations will call you blessed. My arm will make works of power in you. You will be the divine reflection, and filling the whole earth, you will make me receive from all generations that glory which they deny to me.' On hearing this, I remained confused, annihilated, and I did not want to write. And he, caressing me, told me, 'No, no, you will do it. I want it. What I said will serve as honor of my will.' I myself wanted to pay the just homage which befits the sanctity of my will. Rather, I said nothing compared to what I could say. November 8th, 1922, Volume 14. Peace without God is impossible. Threats of war. I am going through bitter days because of the privations of my sweet Jesus. And if he makes himself seen, he is so afflicted and taciturn that, as much as I may say, I cannot manage to console him. So I remain more embittered than before. Then this morning on coming, he said to me, 'My daughter, the pains, the offenses that creatures give me are so many that I cannot take any more. The nations are banding together to enter the field with new wars. Did I not tell you that the wars have not ended, and that the peace was a false and apparent peace? Because peace without God is impossible. It was a peace which did not come from justice, therefore it could not last. Ah, the leaders of these times are true incarnate devils, who are banding together to do evil and cast confusion, slaughters, and wars among the peoples." And while he was saying this, I could hear the crying of mothers, the thundering of cannons, the alarms in all the cities. But I hope that Jesus will placate himself, so they will all remain in peace. November 8th, 1923, Volume 16. Jesus allows all states of mind which existed along the path of sanctity to occur in Luisa, so that everything may end up in the divine will, and from her the new law and the sanctity of the divine will may begin. The privations of Jesus continue. At the most, he comes like fleeting lightning, such that, while it seems to produce light, it leaves one in the dark, more than before. Now, while I was swimming in the bitterness of his privation, my sweet Jesus made himself seen in my interior, all busy writing, not with a pen, but with his breath. Emitting rays of light, he used that light like a pen in order to write into the depth of my soul. But placing one finger on his lips, he made me understand that I should keep silent, for he did not want to be distracted. Then, after he finished, he told me, Daughter of my supreme volition, I am writing in your soul the law of my will and the good which it brings. First, I want to write it in your soul, and then, little by little, I will explain it to you. And my Jesus, I want to tell you of the state of my soul. Oh, how bad I feel. Tell me, why do you leave me? What should I do in order not to lose you? And Jesus, do not afflict yourself, my daughter. You must know that when I came upon earth, I came to abolish the old laws and to perfect others. But in abolishing them, I did not exempt myself from observing those laws. Rather, I observed them in a more perfect way than others did. Having to unite in me the old and the new, I wanted to observe them in order to give fulfillment to the old laws, placing on them the seal of their abolition, and to give start to the new law which I came to establish upon earth, a law of grace and of love, which enclosed all sacrifices in me, since I was to be the true and only sacrificed. Therefore all other sacrifices were no longer necessary, because being man and God, I was more than sufficient to satisfy for all. Now, my beloved daughter, wanting to make of you a more perfect image of me, and to begin a new sanctity, so noble and divine, which is the Fiat voluntas tua on earth as it is in heaven, I want to centralize in you all the states of mind which have occurred until now along the path of sanctity. And as you offer them and move on, doing this in my will, I establish their fulfillment, I crown them, and embellishing them I place on them the seal. Everything must end up in my will, and there, where the other sanctities finish, the sanctity of my will, being noble and divine, keeps all other sanctities as its footstool, and gives them their origin. Therefore let me repeat my life and all that I did in redemption with so much love. Now I want to repeat it in you with more love, to set the starting point, so that the laws of my will may be known. But I want your will united to and dissolved in mine. End of November 8th. Fiat.